Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description, in every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, and today I'm here to talk about episodes 1 through 3 of Apple TV's The Changeling. And it didn't take much for me to be convinced to watch this show. Apple's been on a roll lately, largely with sci-fi, but I think generally with kind of like non-traditional stories or forms of storytelling, Apple's really been knocking it out of the park lately. And then based on the poster and the trailer, this looked like kind of like a suspense thriller to me. And when done well, that's probably my second favorite genre to watch, because at least for me, it's very hit or miss. And yes, that sounds like a bad thing on the surface. And most of the time, it doesn't work for me, which is like, why the fuck is that your second favorite genre? Because when it does, I'll sing its praises from the mountaintops. Because a good suspense film or show will suck me in like nothing else does. Pause. And then, of course, you got Lakeith Stanfield, and he's such a compelling actor to me. Like, you don't really see Lakeith Stanfield in your, like, you know, the new Mission Impossible or the new Marvel movie. He seems to carefully select his projects, and one thing that seems to be consistent in the projects he chooses is something that seems to be original and possibly challenging for him. Like, from Atlanta, Get Out, Sorry to Bother You, Death Note, Yasuke, Judas and the Black Messiah, The Harder They Fall. Like regardless of how you feel about those individual projects, you can't deny that the guy is taking challenging roles and creative roles, and I just respect that, and it makes me willing to give anything that he does a chance. So you couple an actor who consistently takes projects that I find refreshing and challenging and compelling with a genre that I'm inclined to like on a streamer that's performing at a very high level, and yeah, here we are. So, now, of concern to me a little bit was the showrunner slash, I guess, lead writer, Kelly Marcel. She hasn't done a ton of stuff that we would know, but she wrote the screenplay for, like, both of the Venom movies and 50 Shades of Grey, and was apparently one of the story creators for Cruella. And listen, I really liked Cruella. But with that list virtually being the entire extent of her writing work, it wasn't encouraging. Like, the Venom movies and 50 Shades of Grey, like, that's not something where I'm like, oh, and now this person's made the Changeling. Well, like, sign me up. Like, nah. I don't know. I was a little concerned. You know, all the stuff I mentioned at the top, though, it gave this show such a high ceiling that I didn't let Kelly's lack of impressive projects deter me. Man, I hate shitting on somebody's career, so I don't really want to do that. But like, at the end of the day, like, I think me and anyone else who watches this is all in agreement that if I told you, like, hey, watch this new show, who made it? The person who wrote Venom 1, Venom 2, and 50 Shades of Grey. You're going to go tell me to fuck myself. Sorry, I'm just being honest. That's how it is. But I don't want to shit on her career or anything. She's obviously done way fucking better than I have. But at the end of the day, that wasn't exactly the most encouraging filmography. But again, like I said, there's a whole lot of other stuff that appeared to be going really well for this show. Clark Backo is a woman name, despite Clark. She plays Lakeith Stanfield's wife, Emma, in this. And I haven't seen her in much either. She has 31 episodes of Letterkenny under her belt, but I've never seen that. She appeared randomly in several other things I've seen, but not in a big enough role for me to remember her. Like, apparently she did an episode of Station 11, which I saw and covered on this channel. Every episode is there. Search it if you want to see. And The Handmaid's Tale, which I've also covered. Not every season, because I didn't have this channel early on, but I think I've covered probably like the last 3 seasons of Handmaid's Tale. I don't remember her in that either. But her performance in this, pretty fucking memorable. So, the show is based on a novel of the same name by a guy named Victor LaValle, which, if you're a longtime fan of this channel, you already know I have not read the novel. If you're not a longtime fan of this channel, it's not that I have an aversion to books per se, but it's just that my brain doesn't work well with reading. My mind is racing a mile a minute, and it goes in all kinds of different directions. Like, I might get to a line, and it'll remind me of something, and now I'm down, like, the mental version of the Wikipedia wormhole. And now I've realized that I've been reading words and turning pages, but I haven't actually read anything. And I'm like, okay, well, I've read 3 chapters, but I have no fucking idea what's going on right now. So I have to like go back. And it's just the whole thing, because I just can't focus on reading. Plus, I just don't have the amount of focus I would need. I can't get when I have 4 kids. So it's just what it is. But additionally, I guess kind of like to counter that, you know, back in my day, reading was the only way to really acquire knowledge aside from just, you know, life experiences, you know, talking to people and experiencing life. But today, you've got podcasts, audiobooks, the internet, which obviously still involves reading, but you get the point. So I choose to acquire knowledge via those other means rather than reading. So that's my brief little reading explanation. But having said that, I still ain't read this fucking book, and I won't read it. Not because I have a problem with the show, just because I don't know. If I'm gonna force the time and focus to go through a book, I don't know. I need like 50 people to be like, "This is the greatest book you'll ever read in your life." I'm like, well, I guess. Anyway, the subtitles also claim that the narrator on the show is named Victor LaValle, and a quick search seemed to confirm that it is, in fact, the actual author who is doing the narrating, which is kind of cool. He's definitely giving me kind of like Black Vincent Price vibes with like his creepy narration. But let's move on. Let's start talking about this show. Obviously, this won't be going too long because I'm not going to get into spoilers. The idea here really is to just, you know, let you guys know I watched it, let you know who's involved in making it, and let you know what I thought of it and whether or not I'm going to cover it. So it's going to be 8 total episodes. Apple dropped the first 3 last Friday, September 8th. I think the first note of praise that I can give this show is that I watched all 3 episodes in one sitting. And if you look at my channel, if you're a longtime fan of this channel, you know that I essentially watch everything. Everything that's of note anyway. And despite that, it's still rare for me to sit down and watch 3 hours of the same show. I watched 3 hours, but 3 hours of the same show in one sitting is pretty rare. But I was just that into this. So having said that, I'll be doing full coverage for the remaining 5 episodes starting tomorrow, September 15th. Because I found these first 3 to be pretty fucking compelling, intense, and entertaining. So tomorrow, the 15th, is going to be kind of crowded. And I'm going to have to handle episode 4 of this along with the Foundation finale. So it's going to be a lot, but hopefully I can get both of those knocked out tomorrow. We'll see. So Lakeith Stanfield plays a guy named Apollo, a man who in the first episode we see is smitten with Clark Backo's Emma. He asks her out and she refuses, but like his father, he is incredibly persistent. And one of the interesting things about these first 3 episodes is how we see Apollo and Emma's families and how their trials and tribulations parallel with Apollo and Emma's their specific issues. We see Apollo's dad. He's borderline harassing her mom in flashbacks until she agrees to date him. And then we see Apollo do the same thing with Emma. So that's what I mean when we say like the families and how they align and how they let us understand and provide context to how Apollo and Emma behave in present day. Plus there's parallels, like you see habits that one parent has in the child and etc. So stuff like that. But once he being Apollo, once he finally wears Emma down and they go out, we quickly see the progression of their relationship from dating to married to having a son named Brian, who is named after Apollo's father, despite Apollo's father having inexplicably abandoned him and his mother when I think he said he was like 4, something like that. Also of note, since we're talking about a fatherless home, Apollo's dad is white. I just want to make that clear. Like, oh, Keith Stanfield's black-ass dad abandoned his family. Nope, white dad. the biggest spoiler I think that I could give you guys, which I won't, would be to tell you how this young black love goes wrong. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, but I will say that as of now, after the 3 episodes, Emma and Bryant are no longer around, and Apollo is on a quest to find out where they are and why. And this quest I think it's very clear. It's going to be dark. It's going to be scary. Going to be intense, and I'm all on board for all of that to see what happens. I tend to gravitate towards shows that sort of like stretch the limits of your traditional genres, and this show feels largely like a suspense thriller, but like expanded to include like, hey, some supernatural stuff, a little bit of surrealism. It additionally seems to creatively be using these supernatural aspects to make a statement on like postpartum depression. Seems to be a big topic here. And the stress that a new baby can put on a new mother. And I also tend to gravitate toward well-known ideas being presented in unique ways. And I think that's like what we're really kind of getting into here. Like, we're going to have the supernatural and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's really just, a unique way of presenting a story that's really about postpartum depression. Well, I'm not going to say it's really about that, but it's very much clearly a factor or an aspect of this show. Also, while doing research for the show, I learned that of its 8 episodes, the first 5 are from Apollo's perspective, which I did not know. And if you're somebody who watched the first 3, I know your eyebrows raised right now. And then it switches to Emma's at episode 6. So at that point, I'm assuming we're going to find out like what prompted her to take the actions that she took. Her disappearance, what she's been up to while Apollo searches for her, all kinds of stuff. I'm super excited to find out. Fleischman is in Trouble, a show that was on Hulu/FX, I think it was 2022 last year. It used the like, here's one perspective and now here's the other one to great effect. And while this is an entirely different show, there are vast amounts of unknowns regarding Emma's experiences in the first 3 episodes that I'm already sitting on the edge of my seat to see, like, kind of like the backstory on that. Like, there's all kinds of things that we don't see involving Emma that I'm really curious to find out about. I truly wish I could say more, you guys. Like, and I will, since I'm doing full coverage, but I feel like anything else I say would dampen your experience of watching it. And I can add this too. One of the ways in which I judge how much I like a show is how much it sticks with me after I watch it and how excited I am to get back to it. And I found myself spending a lot of time the next day thinking about what I watched and where it could be going. And now, on the eve of a new episode, as I sit here talking about the 3 I watched, I'm finding myself getting more and more excited to watch the next episode and see what happens. Those of you who are used to how I generally review TV are, of course, going to be a little disappointed in this non-spoiler review. It's probably all kinds of cool shit. Those first 3 episodes, you're like, oh, I wish you talk about that. But with these, like I said at the top, my goal is generally to just tell you who's involved, what the show is about, and how I felt about it, and I think I've achieved that goal. I just don't want to start going into further detail, describing the show, and not even spoiling it, just kind of describing like how it moves and how it operates, because I feel like that's going to lessen your experience, because part of my enjoyment was coming to understand what kind of show I was watching. And I don't want to take that away from you guys. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up this video, but I'm going to close with 2 things. One, I like the show to do full coverage, which will start tomorrow with the 4th episode. Like I said, that doesn't really count as number 1 because I already said that. 2, if you watch the first 3 and you're like, oh man, I wish I could talk to him about blank, just know we're going full spoilers from this point on, from episode 4 on. And I'm sure when I record my video for the 4th episode, I'll be referring to a lot of the things that happened in the first 3 that I couldn't mention in this one. So if you're already a fan of those first 3 episodes, join me tomorrow to talk about the 4th. And if you're watching this now to see what I thought about the show, to see if you should watch it, watch the first 3 episodes and join me tomorrow for the 4th. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, hopefully, to talk about that 4th episode in much greater detail. And until then, peace.